President Droupadi Murmu will lead India in celebrating the 75th Republic Day with an imposing display of rising military might and our rich cultural heritage during the 90-minute parade at the Kartavya Path that begins in about half an hour from now. The grand celebrations, with an overarching theme of projecting the nation's women power and democratic values, is being graced by the French President Emmanuel Macron, a 95-member marching contingent and a 33-member band contingent from France are participating in the Republic Day parade in New Delhi. French Air Force Rafale fighter jets and tanker aircraft also will be flying overhead. The French president is the chief guest, as I mentioned. The armed forces will display an array of homegrown weaponry as well, and military equipment such as missiles, drones, jammers, and a lot more. For the first time, an all-women tri-services contingent will be part of the country's biggest ceremonial event. In another historic first, Lieutenants Deepthi Rana and Priyanka Sevda, who are among 10 women officers commissioned into the Regiment of Artillery for the first time last year, will lead the Swati weapon locating radar and Pinaka rocket system at the parade. The parade will be heralded by over 100 women artists playing Indian musical instruments such as the Sankh, the Nadswaram, the Nagada as well, for the first time instead of traditional military bands. Jammu and Kashmir is celebrating Republic Day as well amidst heightened security after the recent terrorist attacks on the army. There's a multi-layer security which is in place not just in Delhi but in other parts of the country as well. Joining us now, Major General Shedu Thapliyal, Wing Commander Praful Bakshi, Major General Sanjay Meston. I'm also joined by Payal Kanwar, the Director General of the Indo-French Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Payal, let me come to you first. It is a huge honor, obviously, for India to have the French President as chief guest, but also a sign of the close relationship that India and France actually have, given the fact that initially there was a request put in to the US President who couldn't make it, and then we reached out to the French Premier, who was quite happy to come over here, a sign of the close relationship that actually exists between our Prime Minister and the French President.
Thanks so much, Vishnu, for having me on. Yes, I mean, like you said, this is an extremely important two-day state visit of the French president to India as chief guest for Republic Day. And it's a clear sign of the importance of this bilateral relationship, because this is the 6th time that France has been extended this honor, which is the highest for any nation. And similarly, last year, I mean, we were in Paris for Bastille Day, and as you would remember, Prime Minister Modi was the guest of honor. And once again, it is extremely rare for France to invite any foreign leader for that matter. So I think this is a clear sign for both countries, but also for the world. Having said that, this comes at an important time because last year both countries concluded the 25 years of the strategic partnership, and this visit is important for sealing the renewal of what we're calling Horizon 2047, which is the roadmap for the next 25 years. So I would say Indo-French relations are really at an all-time high. It's a multifaceted partnership. Of course, like we often say, it's a partnership which goes from the sea to space. Space is also going to be a big element for this trip. We have a French astronaut also traveling in the delegation. So yeah, I mean, I think this is really an important moment for Indo-French relations.
Wing Commander Bakshi, the focus on women this time around, fairly unprecedented in terms of the numbers. Not just the armed forces, marching contingents, all women from the BSF, CISF, CRPF, ITBP, Delhi Police, motorcycle squads as well. So that's clearly the message, Nari Shakti.
Absolutely right, Vishnu. Let me tell you one thing. Women were always part of our system. In fact, there was a sort of a feeling that women are not represented properly or whatever it may be. But now you can see, to just get this matter straight, the women are in wherever they are comfortable, wherever they are effective, and where women should be. In fact, all these paramilitary forces, armed forces, wherever the women, the talent count more, including Air Force, including the paramilitary and including all other police services, security services. Women are there at forefront, including a cottage industry, whether it is there. Let us not forget, women is a homemaker, women create the unity, develop the unit, and that's how it is. whichever country women have not been liberated, let me tell you one thing, that country has never come up. You can see for yourself on the world map.
General Mestre, let me come to you next. One of the key focal points this time around, I would suggest, is perhaps moving away from an all-military display. There is a larger focus on women, there's a larger focus on tableaus, there's a bilateral relationship with France as well. Do you see Republic Day over a period of time becoming less about the military and more about various aspects of our society?
Vishnu, I do agree that it is now becoming little less military. But I think to add on, what it is now amounting is we are showing the entire diversity and culture of our nation. In fact, before the parade commander today, the first delegation or the troop is of the women, and they are going to have a cultural display. That is the start today.
Yes,
so that's itself unique.
Yes.
And coming on to women, I think that's a uniqueness, and of course all the jhankis what we have of the various states. And as regards the women are concerned, I tend to agree. And in fact, I was very fortunate that in '92 I was lucky enough to have the first lady officer, and I had taken her as a major for an operation in Jammu and Kashmir, and her performance was brilliant. This is the first batch of the women. So what I'm trying to say, they are doing extremely good, and probably since I was in Afghanistan, I recollect most of these countries, they were having women also in the special forces. For example, look at the Israeli, in the Israel-Hamas conflict. So I think in the near future, I foresee that the women will start joining infantry. The reservations are there today amongst the men folk, but I'm quite for it that they will be quite successful in infantry, and not only that, in counter-insurgency operations, because whatever it is, when we interact with the civilian population, there are a large number of women in the civilian. So these women can get in touch with the children and also with the ladies. We get intelligence plus the winning of hearts and minds. So I think having women in the armed forces and in every field of the country, it is a very, very good step. And I totally agree. Wherever the women have not been given the freedom to serve the nation, that nation actually is retarding.
Yeah.
And India is one of those nations where we are progressing because we are giving a lot of due honor, respect and responsibility to women in every field. Vishnu.
General Thapdiyal, what for you is the big highlight this time around? Is it Nari Shakti, or how would you assess what we're going to see in the next half hour or so?
Definitely, Vishnu, you may be surprised, or the audience may be surprised to know that out of the total strength of contingents in the Republic Day parade this year, 70% are women, starting from the first right to the last. So that shows the increasing visibility and increasing importance that is being given to the women, even in the armed forces, where you are, as you are aware, women are now going into the NDA also, which was a male bastion for so many years. So I think that's a very good sign that women are being given such important assignments. Of course, there are certain drawbacks or restrictions, you may call it, like for women to go into the
Combat roles. That's also effectively changed, hasn't it?
No, but still, I mean.
Well, in fact, let me come to you, Wing Commander, about that. If you look at the Air Force has been perhaps the most progressive of the three services when it comes to the induction of women. If you've got women fighter pilots, that means that they are necessarily in harm's way. Therefore, the entire issue of a woman pilot being shot down or ejecting over enemy territory is something the Air Force has factored in. You don't invest crores in training and not deploy them in offensive roles as fighter pilots. The Indian Navy has women who are now slowly, progressively taking command of warships. Again, you don't necessarily have women in those roles unless you put them in harm's way, which is the job of a soldier. Is it time for us now to progressively get over our concerns about women in combat roles in the army? Because the Navy and the Air Force have gone ahead. We've got attack helicopter pilots, again, very much in harm's way, who are women.
Vishnu, now that you have asked me this question, allow me to speak the truth. The truth is, we are a culture, a society, where we have got our norms fixed. You cannot change the society. That lady comes from home in a different atmosphere and suddenly you put her in a battlefield in a different atmosphere. You have to respect the cultural norms of the people. Now when you're
Sorry, sir, that's not correct.
No.
The cultural norms of India do not preclude or do not prevent women from being in the armed forces.
No,
it has nothing to do with the culture. There are women quite happy to be in all roles, including combat roles, sir. So that's thinking, sir, respectfully, which is very ancient.
Allow me to complete it.
Sir, it cannot be, it has to be reflective, it needs to reflect a reality in India
Allow
today.
me to complete. I'm not saying that women should not go. Culture means that the societies which have a problem, some societies have a problem, others have don't. And you'll be surprised, Air Force was the first service to have inducted women. I was a spokesperson. In fact, I conducted a ceremony of induction first.
Right.
And women are going in everywhere. Now you're talking in terms of attack helicopter. You're talking in terms of attack of a fighter aircraft crossing the border. Well, there will be a problem on that. Let us not close our eyes to that. But then our women are progressing. If men can face that problem, so can women.
So that's exactly what I was suggesting, but I'm not sure there is a cultural curb or restriction on the role of women.
I know one thing very well.
In fact, I find that somewhat offensive, sir.
No, I know it's offensive, but I've heard it.
Because it doesn't exist.
But I told you.
It's a mindset which needs to change, which I think on Republic Day we need to reflect.
I told you, Vishnu, I told you what I heard. I said, allow me to speak the truth. So you're allowing me to speak the truth. This is what I've heard.
I'm not sure that is the truth, is my point. But
General Meston, but I've heard it.
Right. I know. I've heard it also, and I think it's time that we move away.
But I mean, my daughter.
I think it's time we move away.
My daughter can go. Your daughter can go. But there are people who are objecting to it.
And that's exactly what we need to have, a liberated mind to move beyond.
Yes, I agree with that.
Payal Kanwar, this is an occasion for us to look at France also beyond just the military or the strategic sense. We also have to look at the incredible economic opportunities which exist between India and France. What are some of the key areas where new opportunities might exist? And a second question, the President of France very keen on ensuring more Indian students get to France. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So Vishnu, you know, the trade and economic partnership is a key pillar of this relationship. Now, on the trade side, bilateral trade stands at about 15 billion euros, which was achieved well ahead of the target that was set, which was for 2025. Having said that, as you would know, India and the EU are negotiating currently for a free trade agreement. A seventh round is to take place next month. An EU-India FTA will really boost trade in a huge way because the EU is a massive export destination for India. So that's really on the trade side, where we are hoping for a reduction in tariff barriers, regulatory barriers, and so on and so forth. Now, on the investment side, what's interesting is if you look back over the past decade, investment has actually grown by 8x. We currently have a total investment stock of 25 billion euros in the country. 700 French companies have set shop, generating large employment, about 450,000 jobs by French companies in the country. And again, multi-sectoral. So, you know, right from, of course, defense and aerospace is a large aspect, but then we also have other sectors. It's really diverse, from agribusiness to infrastructure, energy, you name it, automotive, and we do see a lot of Make in India, which is really in line with the government's reforms of Make in India and employment generation. Now, to come to your next question on
education.
Student mobility. So last year, when both the leaders had met, there was an objective to have 30,000 Indian students in France by 2030. So there's a lot that's going on now, to really push for more Indian students to pursue their higher education in France, which is in fact a great opportunity for Indian students. I mean, for myself, I was also back in the day a foreign student in France, and the government is really working on a lot of initiatives to attract Indian students. They're also playing a lot on the language. They've introduced, a maximum number of courses now are in English. The president yesterday, when he was in Jaipur, he had a full interaction with youngsters and an open discussion, which we all saw. So, yeah, I think that's also an important aspect of the visit.
All right. Well, these images coming in from Rashtrapati Bhavan, we expect to see the president in a short while from now. There are people who've now lined up on Kartavya Path, both sides. Those who have the opportunity of actually seeing the parade, which is going to get started in about 15 minutes from now. General Thapliyal, how is Atmanirbharta a key aspect of a lot of what we'll see in terms of the displays or the focus, in addition to women?
You know, if you recall, say in the 50s or even till the 60s, we were importing everything from various countries in the world, especially the Soviet Union those days.
Yes.
Now Russia. But now we have come to a stage where we are exporting arms to other countries of
Yes.
the world, which I think that is a quantum leap. And with the French cooperation, we would go further into this field, and over a period of time we would become self-sufficient as far as arms are concerned.
Is that, General Meston, an area that we really do need to look at? India becoming an exporter of weaponry as well, because a lot of the systems over here, in fact, I believe the BrahMos would also be showcased, it usually is something which we've already started exporting, but in small numbers.
Yeah, very true, Vishnu. Actually, we have started moving in the correct direction of exporting. It is very, very good, especially exporting all kinds of arms, ammunition, weaponry, military hardware to most of the countries. And actually, there are countries who are buying: Chile, Indonesia, Philippines. There are a large number of countries who are looking. And the advantage in India is, for example, last year when the Americans were here, President Biden was here, we had signed a deal, for joint production of engines. And I'm quite sure even with President Macron, I think we are planning to probably sign a deal for producing joint engines,
Yes.
aircraft engines in India.
Yes, very
There
much.
are a large number of advantages. First, basic advantage is the manpower is available to us. So it is obviously cheaper. And probably we may go into a trilateral arrangement where UAE also could be part of that. So funding, etc., is also taken care of. So India has a lot of advantages: the land, the labor, the everything, logistics, our seaports. There are so many advantages. So I think the way we are going on, the exports definitely will keep adding on, and therefore it is going to impinge on the Indian economy. Our economy will certainly boost up. So I think it's a very, very good step. And today, I think the way we are going, I see that in the next few years, India may be one of the top exporters of arms, ammunition to the world.
Yeah.
Right now, we were also importing large number of weaponry from various countries, including Israel. But I think it is high time that in joint collaboration, and especially yet some items we do have to import, like semiconductors. Even in that, we are now going for indigenized production of semiconductors, chips, etc. So I think we are looking for a thing where collaboration with everyone, but the focus has to be in production in India. Certain
Yes.
parts we will require, and I think our exports will increase substantially, which is going to be very, very good for the Indian economy.
One of the key points, Wing Commander, India is looking at the acquisition of 3 submarines, possibly from the French of the Scorpion class, 26 Rafale jets for the Navy. How is that something to in a sense look forward to, since we are talking very much about France?
Yeah, Rafale is, of course, when we are trying to get Rafale for the Navy, now we are building the aircraft carrier is already coming up. Now we are trying to build an aircraft carrier which will be accommodating not only Rafale but also naval version of LCA, the twin engine.
Yes.
And the deck will be, now they'll put the catapult,
Yes.
the better catapult, which is actually, now it has got the ski, but when they put the catapult, then,
Yes.
and not only this, the submarines which are coming up will have AIP.
Yes.
Yeah. So that AIP,
independent propulsion.
allow
Yes.
it to remain more, oxygen supply, all these things, aspect will be less sound. All these things are coming up. And as General Meston has brought out, we are coming up in export in a very big way. But let me tell you one thing, Vishnu, the arms, we are manufacturing a lot, but we must manufacture the key product which will sure to get us victory. America does not make everything. It depends on various things for other countries.
Right.
We must make the core engine, like engines. Engines, we are very weak in it. Whether it is for Navy, whether it is for tanks, whether it is for fighter aircraft, our engine metallurgy is weak. But you will be surprised. The engineers are existing in India. The knowledge is in India. It is just requires a little coordination and between the industries. This is within us. We can get it actually within 3 years. Only thing is we never tried it. HF-24 was the one aircraft which I flew. It was cleared for Mach 2.6, but it did not have an engine. No aircraft is cleared for Mach 2.6 and the pilot's notes.
Yeah.
But it did not have an engine. And why it did not have an engine? It has a lot of politics also behind, which we will not mention here. But why it did not get an engine, but now as French have opened up, we are going to get
the Americans. So there is a real possibility of getting that technology.
And mind you, in 80s, French had approached us.
Yeah.
With an engine, they said your HF-24, and they said we'll modify a Hunter, we'll get an Atar 8K engine. We did not agree to that.
We also didn't agree to the licensed manufacture of Mirage 2000s. We'll leave that as it is. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us. We're going to take a short break. Up after that, in a little while from now, the parade is going to begin. The Prime Minister will be at the National War Memorial as well. So we'll be looking at that and a lot more. Stay tuned.